I'm Joseph K.
I'm Rob Israel.
And this is You Still Going On About That?
Yes.
And
you still going on about that?
Welcome to You Still Going On About That with Rob Israel and Joseph K. Rob is vacationing right now. He's on the Gulf Coast enjoying time with the family. And I just came back from New York doing the same. And we thought we'd put together a clip show. And this is going to cover our first 10 episodes. What you just heard is the first surviving introduction to the show, which was released on January 23rd of 2019. We had recorded 4 episodes, and only 3 of them took. So one, probably our best of all time, was lost to the ether. But the first one that survived and made it to the airwaves was our Back to the Future episode. So tonight we'll be doing a few clips from our first 10 episodes. They include Back to the Future, Akira, Ghostbusters, The Running Man, a mix of Star Wars, Rogue One, and Solo, a show we did on Groundhog Day, Russian Doll, and a Tom Cruise movie that also produced some narrative loops. Episode on icons, which included Nicolas Cage and, of course, Alf. Our big one on The Matrix. And then finally, our Mike Judge episode, which was really a Office Space, Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill mashup. As I was looking through all these clips, what I really noticed first was that our audio was not great back in the day. Not to say that our audio is perfect now, but our audio back then was a little shaky. And you'll probably see that first with our first clip, which is from our Back to the Future episode. We started out talking about movies, and very specific movies. These were all movies from our youth. They all seem to have been filmed in the 80s, released in the 80s, but actually were supposed to take place now in 2019. That's kind of what got us started going. And so we looked at Back to the Future and Akira and Ghostbusters and The Running Man, and those were all supposed to be these movies that portrayed a future. I suppose Ghostbusters really wasn't that way. But that was the basic gist of it at first. And we were really finding our legs. We were talking about the movies. We were half summarizing them, half recollecting them as fanboys of sorts. And as you'll see with the Back to the Future clip, it took us a little while to get our sea legs, but you can see some hints of progress here already. Well, Back to the Future, the original one, and I'm going to be real honest up front. I thought about this a lot in the last couple of weeks we've been doing this, and I remember Back to the Future 1 pretty clearly. Back to the Future 2 and 3, I have only the vaguest recollections of.
Okay, well, I saw them recently, all 3 of them with my son,
right. So
I kind of have a pretty good idea.
There was the Back to the Future original recipe.
Yep.
And then there was the dystopian future Back to the 2.
Well, it wasn't really dystopian future.
It was for Marty.
Well, he just had some problems, but it was just a very odd. It was almost like they made this big deal, like in the end of the movie, like the cliffhanger.
Right.
They didn't know if it was going to be a sequel, but it was this crazy cliffhanger where he finally gets back to 1985, and all of a sudden the doc shows up in the car. And he's got like a trash converter thing for energy. He's wearing like a crazy jacket. He's got like future shades on.
Right. Clearly of the future.
Yes, clearly. From a 1985 standpoint, he was from the future. And then he tells him, "We got to go to the future, Marty.
Right.
Your kids are in trouble," which makes no sense because it's just like, why would you?
Right, because couldn't you just say if you were going to go back to the past, couldn't you just say, "Hey, Marty, when you spanked your kid, don't do that."
Right, or just don't have kids.
Right, it wouldn't require a trip to the future.
I'm going to give you a vasectomy right now.
Right, yeah.
And he, he has like a future gun and just shoots him right in the crotch. And that's it. I mean, that's how you prevent that. But, whatever. It was a fun little ending. So right. I guess, when they actually went back and made the movies, they decided to make 2 and 3 at the same time.
Right.
And I guess they kind of they're like, crap, we got to actually do this.
With the end of the clip, you see us talking about how they're making 2 and 3 at the same time. And we start talking about the way movies are made, rather than the movie itself. And we really didn't do that a whole lot at first. We focused just on the movie. But in recent episodes, in the last 10 or 15, we've started talking a lot about the notion of movies, and that's become kind of more of a focus. But from there, we moved quickly on to Akira, which in retrospect I wish we had saved for later to tackle because it's such a great movie.
And we didn't get that.
None of it.
We got this technology to this podcast.
Yeah. Well, it's weird. The last time we met, we also talked like about the like how in movies like Blade Runner or whatever, they'd still be using phone booths.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, they're still products of their time. Like even like in Akira, if you look at the clothes they wear, like it looks more like clothes that was being worn in the mid-'80s.
Yeah. This was, of course, when we were still talking about movies that were filmed in the past that were supposed to be taking place in our present, and Akira was just such a great example of this one. I think we recorded this one in Rob's living room, and it's a lot more echoey than in my kitchen. You can usually tell the difference with those early episodes. If it's super echoey, it's probably Rob's living room, and if there's like a host of crickets in the background, it's probably in my kitchen. We hadn't yet really figured out the noise gate on GarageBand yet. From there we went into Ghostbusters, and honestly for a little while it seemed like we were going to be a Bill Murray focused podcast, because a lot of the early stuff we talked about, whether it was about Bill Murray in particular or just sort of him peripherally, he seemed to pop up in a lot of the early episodes. But here we took we took kind of an interesting look at Ghostbusters, and I had never really thought about this before, but Rob brought up the really problematic nature of Bill Murray's character in Ghostbusters, and that became kind of a running joke for a while, was that Bill Murray was this embodiment of 80s or 90s terribleness, but we're real big fans of Bill Murray, so we abandoned that joke quickly. But Ghostbusters is an odd one. It's an odd one to look back on, and it's definitely a product of his time, as a lot of these early ones were. Yeah. All right.
How you doing? I'm Rob Israel.
I'm Joseph K.
And this is...
Are you still talking about that?
Yes.
Right. We are.
All right. So last episode, or whatever, we were talking about Back to the Future.
Right. We ran that into the ground.
Yes. And we're going to run, and we brought up Ghostbusters here, and we're going to run that into the ground too.
Absolutely.
So the funny thing about why I brought up Ghostbusters last episode was just that they released a teaser they just announced a new Ghostbusters movie.
Right.
And they're getting Ivan Reitman Jr. to make Ghostbusters. So I guess was his name Ivan Reitman?
No, I think it was like Jason Reitman.
Oh, I don't know. He's a Reitman.
The kid,
whatever.
Yeah.
The dad made the first one, and I guess now the son's making that.
Yes.
Even though he's a totally different human being.
Right.
Whatever. So it's just going to be the same movie.
Sure.
Well, so the reason why I even connected the two is because in this little teaser trailer, it's like in the woods, and they go into like almost like a barn, and under it's like lightning, and you hear kind of some subtle music. In this little teaser trailer, you see it, and there's like a car under a tarp. And it easily could have been the Back to the Future car.
Right.
Like, I mean, it could have been... I mean, someone else made a joke, so, like, they could have made, like, a Knight Rider one. They could have made... Like, it could have been any car under this. But the first thing that popped in my brain when I saw that under the tarp, especially with the connection to Back to the Future, because when I think of Ghostbusters, I think urban dwelling.
Right.
I don't think Midwest woods.
No.
Like, that... Back to the Future, I could see that because it was all suburban, and like you said, it's, like... kind of the Midwest, I guess.
Yeah, well, it was filmed in Prescott, Arizona.
Right.
But yeah, it had a general Midwestern...
It's not...
Right.
Ghostbusters is like, it's New York.
Oh, yeah,
so
New York is basic... Yeah.
I guess it could be upstate New York. I don't know.
Right.
But I thought, when I saw that, I was like, okay, is this a Back to the Future sequel? No, but it's Ghostbusters.
It was Ecto-1,
yeah,
right?
Ecto Cooler car.
Yeah, that's a beverage, yeah.
Yeah, it was a beverage.
Every
time they make a new Ghostbusters, there's like one or two people I know will bring up a Facebook, oh, cool, they could bring back Ecto Cooler. And I'm like...
Was that a Capri Sun, or was that...
It was like a high C.
Okay, yeah.
And it had Slimer on it. And, I mean, it was just like an orange flavored drink that kind of looked like Slimer peed in it or something.
Well, I haven't seen the new trailer.
No, it's not. I mean, that was it.
Or the teaser,
It's literally just a teaser. It's very ambiguous. They haven't released any, anything about the movie. There was one leaked, and it could be totally...
Sure.
Like, they haven't released yet, like, who's going to be in it, but it's totally ignoring the
girl Busters.
2016 the very controversial Ghostbusters. Yes.
Well, that really triggered a lot of people.
Yes.
A lot of people were
a lot of men, a lot of sad men. But it's not a good movie though.
The reboot from a year or two ago.
I mean, the only good Ghostbusters movie is the first one.
And speaking of products of their time, we tackled Running Man next, which is probably the first one where we got a little more overtly political. You could definitely see political undertones in some of our Back to the Future stuff and Akira and Ghostbusters, but we really kind of went full-on political with Running Man. And I think we pulled back for a little while. We'd later in the episodes get much more political. But Running Man was kind of the embodiment of what we were trying to talk about in the beginning of the show. It was these dystopian futures that were supposed to be modern day. And man, if Running Man isn't eerily close to our modern day reality. I didn't buy it at first. Rob kept saying that Running Man was the most realistic of all the dystopian movies of the 80s. But after I rewatched it and after he made his case, it was a really compelling argument, and the movie holds up. It's definitely an 80s movie, but it really holds up.
Let's just focus on
the reason we talked about Running Man last week was that Running Man was supposed to take place in 2019, this year. Mm-hmm. And have you watched any of it recently?
No.
Okay. I watched, I'd say probably a total of 20 minutes of the film, and I think it runs like an hour and a half. So it's a stretch, but I'm going to claim that I watched a third of the movie. And it is, it's awesome, but it is so completely a product of the 80s.
I mean, it is, but what I like about it in comparison, okay, so when we started this podcast, we were talking about dystopian future. We were talking about Akira.
Yes.
Blade Runner.
Right.
And Running Man.
Yep.
They all take place now. Just supposed to take place now.
Right.
Running Man, even though it looks like it's made in the 80s and it looks like a product of the 80s, is the most believable version of the modern day.
Right.
Like, it's the most, like, it almost, like, exists. I mean, it's, like, one of those things, like, people bring up, whenever they talk about our present day, they say, oh, we're living in an idiocracy, or this is like the Running Man. I always made a joke, and I said, even when, like, you know, read it political a second, when Trump was running for president, you know, I made a joke, and I think on my Instagram, my Facebook, and I said, when Trump becomes president, which dystopian future will come true? And listed a bunch. I said, I believe it will be Running Man. Running Man seems like such a perfect Donald Trump universe. Right. Because it was he's a game show host.
Yes.
And it was about a game show. It's reality TV. It's a whole big lie. And like desperate people doing things. And, you know, obviously people die in this game.
Sure, yeah.
No one's actually, but still this desperation and...
Well, what I had forgotten is that a huge element of the film is like the media manipulation. Like they said they had film of this guy doing something, but they didn't. It was doctored film. Yeah. It was like a deep fake, like an 80s deep fake of Arnold Schwarzenegger killing people during a riot.
And he didn't do any of that.
But it never happened.
Right. He was actually breaking the orders of shooting the people. Right. He refused to do it. And then he's on the run, they capture him, and then they play the footage, and they put him in the Running Man. And before the Running Man starts, they play this footage that is completely doctored, where the people in the cop chopper were like telling him not to kill the people, and he's like, I'm going to kill all the people.
I think that was a direct quote from the film.
Yeah, I want to kill all the people. That's perfect, right? It's like, oh wait, he's in the room, guys.
Right. One of our cardinal rules has always been that we only talk about movies that we love. You're never going to hear us put on a movie and just badmouth it for 2 hours because that's not who we are or what we're about. And I don't want to speak for Rob, but I always respect effort and we're not going to waste our time on movies we don't care for. We do give Star Wars a hard time. I think it comes from such a deep and abiding love for the property. I know it influenced the hell out of me as a kid, and if you've seen some of Rob's spare rooms, he's got the toys to prove that it has definitely influenced him. But Star Wars, we always seem to come back and nitpick. With this one, man, Rob did not like Rogue One. I really liked it, kind of likening it to those old World War II movies. And we both had a lot nicer things to say about Solo, which don't appear in this clip. But yeah, the Star Wars. We always come back to Star Wars. Yeah, okay.
It's not okay. Be honest.
And what were your feelings about Rogue One?
It's not good.
Okay, you did. So none of your entire family hated it.
No. They just don't care. I care.
I felt betrayed.
They have no emotional investment.
Right.
They don't give a shit.
Right. So they didn't like it.
I'm not betrayed by the movie. I don't care less. Like,
okay.
I've gotten to a point where I could remove myself. I always say, if you get angry about these movies, just pop in Empire Strikes Back.
Sure.
Breathe a little bit. Put it on. And enjoy.
Yeah.
And wish for time and just pretend
a simpler day.
And if you have an old VHS that hasn't been molested by George Lucas, like with those extra special effects.
Right.
Good. Watch that. Enjoy.
It's just like 2 hours in a Bacta tank.
Yeah,
like
pretty much. Yeah, soothing Bacta tank. Just watch the original movie, and don't worry about Disney doesn't own it. It's still Star Wars.
Right.
You know, hold that Bosk figure that looks like a sock monkey. And, so, I mean, Rogue One is this, I mean, again, it's like, we're talking about something that's been, like, chewed apart by every YouTube critic,
I liked Rogue One. And so I'll
go ahead. Well, why? What's wrong with you, Joseph?
I liked it because first of all, it reminded me of all those movies I liked as a kid, watching these old movies on HBO.
You're talking about like the original, or just
like Force 10 from Navarone, the Guns of Navarone.
Okay, kind
of like the Bridge Across the River Kwai.
Which has Alec Guinness in it. So kind of a Star Wars. It might be considered canon.
It's
Star Wars movie.
But it had that sort of World War II. It was like a World War II movie for me. Like, growing up, I loved those old World War I, World War II movies.
Yeah.
And it had like kind of a heist not a caper, but like it had that feel to it. And I really appreciated it because it reminded me of those generic kind of movies where you would sit in
like Dirty Dozen.
Well, yeah, exactly. And you'd come in and you'd be like, okay, I know this trope, I know what's going to happen, I'm going to sit back and watch it, and it's going to be familiar to me. And I liked that about Rogue One.
I will say there are things I like about Rogue One. I like the bad guy.
Yes.
Krennic. I like him.
Yes.
But okay, so my main issue with Rogue One and even Solo, just to sum them both up together, the expanded universe, is that, and especially when I watched Solo, that's when it really came to my brain. I was like, oh my god, Disney is trying to make a franchise within. So you got your saga movies, episode 1 through 8, and 9's coming out into this year.
Yeah.
So you got those. But Disney's trying to make a franchise. And the reason why I figured that out was because they had some elements that were in Rogue One that were in Solo, even though Solo takes place before Rogue One.
Okay.
But there was a character or two that show up. So they're trying to link. And then they're trying to do these other things. And I was like, oh no, this is like, I was getting like...
And here's another Bill Murray clip. Like I said, we came back to Bill Murray a lot in the early episodes. This is one that it was the first clip I think I posted on my own Instagram account. We have you still going on about that Instagram account now, but I used to post little audio clips on my Instagram, just holding up the phone to GarageBand and kind of recording some stuff. And this one got a little dark, but Groundhog Day, the clip this episode is focused on, Groundhog Day is a lot darker than it initially seems to be. We talked about a couple other things. This is the first episode where we talked about a pretty timely thing. We talked about Russian Doll, which had just been released on Netflix. And it was, again, kind of a turning point in the evolution of the episode. And it was another, the audio's getting a little better. We're getting a little better rapport with one another, with each other. And yeah, Groundhog Day. It's an odd one.
So that anyway. Okay, so he wakes up the next day and he realizes it repeats. And then, so in that first day of repeating, he meets some like losers at a bar, and he takes them out and he puts them on like the train track. And he was like going to murder them. I found that kind of... Now, is that true?
I don't recall that. Now, I may...
He takes them like for a joyride. Those guys were too drunk. He's drank a little bit, but he's already at the point where he doesn't care, something like that. And
he did have a real nihilistic approach.
But that's only the second day in, and he was ready to kill
people.
those two people. And I was like, what the hell?
That got dark quickly.
Right, like, I could see that on day 20.
Right.
Day 30 maybe. But day 1?
I'd like to think I wouldn't start killing people for years.
Yeah,
you know,
good guy. That's a good guy right there. Hey, it's just in case you're wondering if Joseph is in the time warp,
right.
You guys are okay for a couple years.
But
you won't know because it'll be that day.
Okay, so let's just say this happened, and I wake up tomorrow, and it feels like today, and at first it'd probably be hard to tell, right?
Yeah.
Because like my mornings all start the same, but then like eventually I'd be like, oh wait a minute, and then I'd go to bed like pretty troubled.
Yeah.
And then, but like at what day do you think you'd like really lose it?
Okay, so like.
It'd be quick, wouldn't it?
I think by like
that's so weird.
Friday or something, I'd be like,
so like 5 days in.
I would drop my kid up in school, and then I'd be like, and then like Saturday would come.
Right.
I'd be like, wait, what? No, I mean, I don't think I'm that aloof to that it would take that long. I think I would notice it like literally the next day. I'd be like looking on TV and looking at the guide and be like, wait, today's Tuesday.
Rachel Maddow told us about that last night.
Yeah, Rachel Maddow. Yeah, I'm always Rachel Maddow. No, I'm thinking more like The Flash is supposed to be on. nothing important.
That would be the worst. Like you're waiting for an episode of The Flash.
I'm waiting for the episode.
And it's like Wednesday, but you're stuck in Tuesday forever.
Wait, Arrow's not on Tuesday. Flash is on Tuesday. What the hell? And then I'd call them up. And I'd sound like a madman. So I would figure out the next day. Now, my first instinct would be not go out, get drunk, find 2 losers, go on a train track, and try to kill everybody. I would wait it out.
Right.
Maybe by the 4th day.
Yeah. Okay. So I again, I don't want to speak for Rob, but I had such a great time doing this episode. We talked about Nicolas Cage, who you just can't help but enjoy talking about, and we paired him with Alf. And we talked about what it meant to be an icon. I know Keanu Reeves appeared in this, and we had talked about whether or not he was yet an icon. And it was kind of a good mix of philosophical discussion, like what makes an icon as far as film goes, as far as Hollywood goes, and and Alf. And anytime you can work Alf into a conversation, I'm 100% there for it.
Stitch. I wish I had, and maybe I have it somewhere, the Alf. It was like Burger King.
The doll.
Toy. Yeah, the doll. And he's like in a rock and roll outfit.
Oh, I don't remember.
Sick as fuck.
Yeah, I remember the one where you like touched his tummy and he'd be like, "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty," or something.
That sounds so bizarre.
Right after I said that, I was like, "Gosh, I hope
touch. Oh, really?
Tell me where he touched you."
Okay, how do we get out of this Alf hole?
I don't know, but okay, so Alf.
You know what?
From there, we went right back into Sirius, and if our Running Man episode was political, then Matrix went full-on political. I mean, we name-checked a lot of people. Rob's art on his account, at Rob Israel, tends to get very political, and he has a lot of interaction with both good and bad political actors on his account. And we went right to the heart of it here. We had a lot of fun talking about Matrix. I know I just posted something on our You Still Going About That Instagram today. They're talking about making a Matrix 4, which will, I guess they've talked about that before, but that'll be kind of an interesting thing to see play out. But Matrix was definitely a turning point for us. We had finally gotten pretty okay with the audio. We're not there yet. Our rapport and our chemistry had gotten really good. We sort of knew what we wanted to do with the movie. This one goes all over the place, from real fun, dopey stuff to pretty serious philosophical stuff. And I know Rob always talks about Matrix as being one of the first episodes of ours that he thought would do well, and he's 100% right. It's really a great example of some of our early episodes. Of the first 10, if I were going to point someone to listen to one of our first 10 episodes, this is a really good representation of what the show would eventually become.
The red pill, like the right wing or like online internet shows, they use the red pill, and they use this other thing to attack people, which again is like, it's like debasing people. They do it on it's almost like I said, Matrix on the social media, where they make these fake accounts. They call them NPCs. And
okay, like a non-player character.
Yeah, and they're like gray. They got like 2 dots, like a nose and a mouth, and they're like generic liberals, and they'll go on like they'll make fake accounts. And it'll be like 06132, and they'll go on a page and they'll say like Orange Man bad or something, or they'll say some generic like social, what they would call social justice warrior comments, like generic lines, and it's I mean, I know what they're doing. You think they're being funny, but at the same time they're dehumanizing people. Yeah, and it's all part of that red pill thing. So the whole idea is that like you're taking the red pill, right? See, you're eating. The red pill is the real thing. That's why you don't get Trump, or you don't get these.
Yeah, because we're still in the Matrix.
Yeah, we're still on the blue pill. But once you take this red pill, you'll open up. And then the whole thing is moronic because what it does is it plays into people who really don't follow politics and don't understand like how government works or whatever. Not to say that I do either, but at least I do follow it, and I know like when I see agendas and so like and they're. I think an everyday person sees like the Me Too movement or pop culture, or they see Time's Up movement, they call that, and they see it as like they're being restricted, they're being contained.
Well, they see it as threatening to the way they want to live their lives.
But they also think that that's the power structure. They don't realize that this is where it gets really devious. Is that the red pill people, as they would like to claim themselves, they're actually pushing an agenda that's ran by people who have ran the government. For Republicans have had Congress for like 10 years. They've had Senate for like 6 to 8 years, and they have the president, and they also have the courts. So, but if you talk to the average person, their perception is they think in pop culture. Pop culture, the culture is to the left, not really, but it is in their mind. But the actual power structure that actually runs things.
Yeah,
it's way to the right. It's deep. It's a crimson red. So they're telling people to use this red pill to open their mind, or like be anti-PC. That's another gateway drug.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
And that's one's made by Neo. That's actually the main people that push that. And I always tell people this. I'm like, when you say things about anti-PC, I'm like, what are you getting at? Because I'm just letting you know that the main people with the origins, like that's some like neo-Nazi Klan shit.
Yeah, that is weird. But it's funny because, like, clearly far-right trolls, that type of they've adopted the red pill kind of as their thing. But the Matrix, I never thought the Matrix had that philosophy. I never thought the Matrix... No,
it didn't.
Yeah.
And it's ruining it. It ruins it. You watch it later, and I'm like, now that this has only been the past couple of years.
Well, there's another element that got ruined, and you brought it up that I had completely forgotten
the Columbine thing?
Yeah, the Columbine thing.
So... I saw the movie in the theater, but I didn't see it till the movie came out in April. Columbine happened, I think, in May.
Wow, I didn't realize.
Or the end of April. The movie came out like early April. Columbine happened.
I want to say April 20th. I think it was 4/20 was the thing.
Yeah, you did on Hitler's birthday.
Right.
It was 4/20.
Yeah.
The movie came out early April, so it was already out for a while. And they said the way the kids dressed and
the guns and this, that, and whatever.
And so, I mean, at the time, I was like, thought it was idiotic. I still think it's idiotic. I'm like, no, about the guns are the problem.
And from there, we went to an odd one. We noticed that Office Space, the great Mike Judge comedy, was having its anniversary, and so I said, let's do Office Space. And we did, and I rewatched it, and I caught up on some of King of the Hill and a few of his other properties. But I quickly realized when we sat down to record that Rob knows infinitely more about Mike Judge's work than I do. And this is one of the first ones where I felt like I didn't hold up my part of the conversation. Rob knew pretty much everything there was to know about all the characters and all the different histories of the characters and Mike Judge's own history. I had done a little research, but it's a good episode. It's not as good as The Matrix in my opinion. If you listen to the Rob parts, you're going to be just fine. If you listen to the parts I go on, there's some good stuff there, but this was definitely, of our first 10, I wish we had ended on The Matrix. We ended on this episode. It's a perfectly good episode, but after this one, I started doing my homework a lot more extensively than I did previous to this episode. Previously, I would watch the movie, look at a few clips, and maybe scan the Wikipedia page. After this, I was going on Twitter. I was seeing what people were saying about it. I was going on YouTube videos. I was reading essays about the films. And the show, on my end at least, became much tighter and better after this one. It's like I said, I don't want to downplay it because there's some great stuff on here. But the clip we chose from this episode it had nothing to do with Mike Judge. It had to do with a documentary we saw on Netflix, both of us, about flat Earth people. Rob turned this into one panel of an entirely great series of Bobby Hill embodying different conspiracy theories. It's an amazing piece. If you scan his Instagram account, you'll see it. But that again became a theme for us later on in the episodes, where we would talk about something completely unrelated for 15 or 20 minutes before we got into the main thing. This is our Mike Judge episode, and it was it's the last of the first 10 episodes that we're looking at.
I saw a documentary on Netflix called Behind the Curve.
Right. Now, I saw... Okay, so at lunch today, I'm flipping through Instagram, and I saw a piece of art you did where it was Bobby
Hill with a flat face.
With a flat face.
He has a flat... His head is like a flat
It's like a
square.
Yeah,
and his face is on it, and it's flat. And
you talked about this documentary in the comments.
Yeah, he woke up and he was a flat earther. And
right.
His face was flat.
and so you saw this documentary, so go ahead.
Yeah. So the documentary is about people who believe the earth is flat. It's the most bizarre... Because the thing I don't get about it is, like, okay, so I can understand, like, some truthers... I don't want to take the whole episode up about this.
Sure.
But... I could see some of these conspiracies and truthers behind it and their reasonings for it. So I could see like people who think crisis actors, like gun advocates, they have a solid interest and they want to protect their guns.
Yeah.
I don't agree with them, but at least there's something there. People who think 9/11 was an inside job. I could see that too. Why there's people who believe in that. They think that the government set it up. That's why we went to Iraq and all that. So all these conspiracies to me have some, like anti-vaxxers, the same thing. They have some, I think it's bullcrap, but they have at least some kind of weight on it that gives them a reason to believe in what they believe in.
Yeah.
But Flat Earth, I don't get because I don't understand what their problem is. Like, I don't understand why they have such an issue with the globe being round. And why they get so angry. They get, like,
that's funny,
they foam at the mouth. But the funny thing is, it's almost like a gate. You know how they would say, like, pot was like a gateway drug, which was the stupidest thing? Well, I would say Flat Earther is definitely a gateway to other conspiracy. Because one of the guys they interview, I mean, he was talking about Flat Earth, and he just started going on about, like, anti-vaxxing and all that other stuff. And I was like, okay, so this is just like a I mean, this is all part of a mixed bag of, like, Alex Jonesy, like...
Yeah.
Like that specific kind of conspiracy. It's a very specific type of conspiracy theory. And to me, they're silly, and you're focusing on the wrong thing. Like, like we were lied to get in the Iraq War.
Yeah,
I think that's not even, to me, that's a fact.
Right.
That is just not being allowed. Like, there's people still believe that today.
Right.
So to get that out of the way. That's not why I found this documentary interesting. I loved it for so many other reasons.
Okay.
Lovable cast of characters. The budding romance between the main guy and the woman that I think honestly had no interest in him because he was gross and lived with his mom.
But they were both flat earthers.
Yeah, they were both flat earthers. They were like the head or like the leaders or higher ups of like this niche group. Like, they, I guess, had the most views on their YouTube channel.
Right, okay.
I mean, we have, like, 3 listeners. They have, like, 35,000 listeners.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe we should just turn this into a flat earth thing.
Well,
we get this, we gotta get that audience,
It's funny because, like, I can, like, it... Okay, if you were alive 50,000 years ago or whatever, the Earth looks flat. Like, if you can start from that basic premise, like, oh, okay, the Earth looks flat. But then... the minute you start examining anything else, it all falls apart. Like how the sun works and stars and seasons.
So the guy, I totally forgot his name. It doesn't even matter. Just watch the documentary. It's on Netflix.
Sure.
The main guy in it, he kind of almost bases his belief in Flat Earth because he watched the Truman Show.
Okay, you had mentioned that. And he thinks that we're under a dome. Right.
And so, like, the Earth is round.
Oh, sure, of course. No one debates that.
Right. Well...
they're not fools.
Right, yeah, these people aren't idiots. But they think the world is flat.
Just not a sphere.
Right. It's not a sphere.
It's round. It's flat and round like a pizza.
But then they're okay with the other planets that are in our galaxy. They're okay with them being spheres. Yeah. Which I don't get. Yeah. So I get like, well, I don't know. Or I guess we gotta be special, which I guess has some form of narcissism involved in there.
Sure.
But like, so a couple of things that kind of kill. I posted something, like I said, I posted something on my Instagram. One guy left this awesome comment, and he said, like, if that was the case and the Earth ended where it did,
right,
that would be the biggest tourist attraction ever. Like, it would
certainly
be,
bigger
it would
than
be
the
like,
Grand Canyon.
It'd be bigger than Niagara Falls. It'd be bigger than any, like, they would, like, you would pay top dollar to go to the edge of the Earth.
Oh, yeah.
And watch the galaxy, like the horizon, like
it'd be
that
beautiful.
sea. Yeah, it would be amazing. I want to see this shit. You know what? I hope the Earth is flat. I want them to be right because I want to get this. I want to get this tourist operation going, and we're gonna be fucking rich.
It'll be like the restaurant at the end of the universe.
Yeah. What's his name?
Douglas Adams.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I mean, that'd be sick. Now I don't get it. What made this documentary great though was the infighting.
Yeah,
there's always like it doesn't even matter what it is. They could have been furries. It could have been a Harry Potter club. They could have been. Furries and Harry Potter Club is like almost
that's kind of
the same thing. You know?
Trekkies.
Once you get Hagrid in there from Harry Potter, you're basically already a furry.
Is, yeah.
So Chewbacca from Star Wars, again, you're a furry now.
Right.
So Flat Earther. So they had these like hierarchies, and then you had like the rebel, like the real rebel.
Okay.
Flat Earther who wouldn't be in the documentary. The people who ran it was really funny. They said that this guy, I don't even remember his name in the documentary, but they have some clips of him, but he refused to be in it unless they gave him like 15% of the profit, and that they revealed that the one guy, his theory was that the guy that the movie centered on is not really a flat earther. He's an actor that works for Warner Brothers, which is connected to the military because the military owns Warner Brothers. Now,
that tracks.
Just Warner Brothers, not Disney. Just Warner Brothers, according to this guy. Yeah, it's very specific. I guess Disney. Yeah, they don't. They're like anti-vax. I'm not saying that. Don't sue me, Disney. Right. I have no idea. Don't get Dumbo after me.
Oh mercy!
That's what happens when you don't vaccinate. When you vaccinate your kids, you get big giant ears, like Dumbo. So, it's a great documentary, just from entertainment. And the thing is, like, when you watch this documentary, you're like, you know. These people, like, it's easy to say they're idiots or dumb.
Sure.
I don't know what the hell they are. My favorite part of the movie, and is they have a convention in the end.
Right.
And it's hard to gauge because movies and everything, like, if you shoot something at the right angle,
you can make it look very big.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people were there, but from what I gather, they could have like 50,000 people there, or just like 40.
Sure.
But the way it was shot, I thought it was. There was more people that should have been there, regardless.
Right.
There shouldn't have been that many people. So they're having like a conference with all the flat earther scientists.
Okay.
I'm using quotation marks with my fingers.
Yeah. Right.
There's a kid asks the main guy a question, and he's 12.
Okay.
Right? And he says, do you think there's a globe? No, a dome around the Earth. A dome around the Earth. And he's like, oh, that's a good question. How old are you, young man? He's like, I'm 12. He's like, oh, how did you get here? Did you like lie to your parents, get out of here, and like skip out of school? He's like, no, my parents brought me. He's like, oh, God bless you. That's great. I'm just like, that's like child abuse. Those parents should have their. They should call what's that? Child Protective Services on it. Like, you're taking your kid to a flat earther. You're just 12. Oh my God.
I will. It's funny you said because you said earlier that they get angry and they have no reason to get angry about.
I just don't. I mean, like even like. It becomes like a religion because, like, I mean, you can say same about religion when people are against like evolution, and they get real crazy, like the world's 6,000 years old. To me, it's like, okay, if you're gonna make that argument, their argument, but they just get so mad about it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
And they interview real scientists in the documentary,
like actual ones.
Yeah, and journalists, and interview people, and they bring
psychiatrists.
Yeah, well, they bring up a point. They say that like, one, it's ridiculous that they have to debate them. You can't debate these people because no matter what you do, they view themselves as the underdog.
Right.
So even when you give them actual data that proves them completely wrong, they're the underdog, so they'll just be like, see, they're holding me back.
Yeah, they're manipulating the
data. It's like they're rigging the system, like Trump says in the elections, you know.
I will say, though, that the flat earthers, aside from like just contributing to the general distrust of science, they're pretty harmless in the sense that like
I don't think that they use. No, I think this is
like a gateway. Like,
I think this is becoming bigger than it was. I remember like 10 years ago, Sherry Shepherd was on The View, and Whoopi Goldberg. They asked if the world was flat or something like that.
Yeah.
Or Whoopi Goldberg was on, and Sherry Shepherd was on. And Sherry Shepherd said she didn't believe the world was round or something, or was a globe or something. And they're like, and Whoopi goes like, "You think the world's flat?" It's like, I don't know, Whoopi. You know, I don't have time to think about it. I got to take care of my kids, and it was just like, Sherry Shepherd. I think like ABC did a disservice. She should have been fired that day.
Yeah.
Nothing against Sherry Shepherd. I like her as an actress. I've seen her things. She's very funny when she shows up. Right. Seems like a pleasant lady. But she shouldn't. But she destroyed the world that day. 10 years ago, I think it was 10 years ago. It was on The View. That was the first time I ever heard in my
like an adult,
no, my whole life. I knew as a child. I was told the Earth was proven round. They would go back. They would say Christopher Columbus proved it, but you could go back and say actually they proved it.
Really knew it
it's
like
been longer than that, way longer than that. They knew that the sun would come over. They understood that.
Yeah. Even some like relatively very old.
It goes back, it goes back thousands of years, But whatever. The way it was taught to me in my elementary school in the early '80s was that Christopher Columbus proved to at least the Spanish Queen or something that
Ferdinand.
That though he wasn't going to fall off the Earth. That was the thing. I guess he'd fall off the Earth. So I knew that. I was like, okay, this doesn't seem like a debatable thing. Mm-mm. And then Sherry Shepherd was on TV,
and she
said that, and I was like, she's an idiot. And she should be fired. And she wasn't fired. And by not firing her,
you kind of
this came out of nowhere. And then there's all these like basketball players and all these celebrities that actually will get interviewed. And I will watch like Joe Rogan, and he'll make a joke and say like, it started on 4chan, but no, it didn't. This has been going on for years, and it's just growing. But I blame Sherry. This is all Sherry Shepherd's fault. This is why we have Donald Trump as president.
It's kind of crazy. I guess where I was going is like, if someone doesn't vaccinate their kids or whatever, that could like conceivably hurt a bunch of people.
Right.
Flat Earthers, I don't know if they actively hurt people, but I agree. They
contribute
to that.
You're contributing to the disillusionment of like science and nature and like, I mean. It's the same thing with people who like.
It's anti-progress.
It's anti like professionals and like people who mastered things and like spent 20 years studying on something. Like again, it's like the same thing. Do you go to a doctor to get your like when you're sick, or do you go to your barber?
Right.
he knows some things.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Well, I'm going to go to the doctor. And I think there's some bad doctors, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
But that's still, I don't know.
All right, well, so Mike Judge.
Speaking of crazy, lunatic idiots.
Well, no, we were trying to...
about Mike Judge has been accused of destroying the country and the culture.
Well, that was a big deal. Now, when we wrapped up last week's episode on The Matrix, we spent like 3 minutes trying to figure out what we were going to talk about this week, and I said I had just read an article that said Office Space just turned 20 years old.
Right, and we were talking about how The Matrix was 20 years old. Right. All these things are turning 20 years old.
Yeah, that's depressing. But we kind of quickly said, let's talk about
Mike Judge.
Because Office Space, I don't know if you could talk at length about it, and you kind of need to talk about it in context with his other work.
So that came out in 99, but he was already around for like, I would say almost like 10 years. I mean, he was doing stuff for Saturday Night Live. That's why I always loved the Milton character. I didn't realize.
So there you have it. Those were the first 10 episodes of You Still Going On About That. There's something to love in all of them. If you go back into iTunes or Podbean or Stitcher or Castbox or Google Chrome or Spotify or any of those platforms and go back and listen to the older episodes, you won't be disappointed too much. If you like the kind of stuff we do, it's not completely alien. It's not a different format. We're the same two people talking about roughly the same two things. But you will notice a decline in audio quality. You'll notice that we're trying to find our footing in what we talk about. You'll notice that we only tentatively get into culture and politics initially. And now we go real hard very quickly with a lot of this stuff. You could see early on we were pulling our punches or trying to find out the boundaries of the show, and by this point, there aren't too many boundaries left. So I don't know what the future holds for us. The next 10 episodes really were a turning point. The one right after the Mike Judge one was our Captain Marvel episode. That was the first time we had seen a movie in the theater, and then kind of raced home to talk about it, trying to capitalize on some of the social media momentum that the episode had built in. We went very political in Captain Marvel. And since then, it's been a really nice balance. We've done a lot of old classic stuff like Gremlins, and we've done a lot of modern recent stuff like the movie Us or the Game of Thrones. And so that's it. Those are the first 10 episodes. We're getting better. We have some exciting stuff coming up. We might even have some guests coming in to join us that have done some stuff with film, and we hope you'll join us. I'm Joseph K. I'm speaking for Rob Israel and myself, and saying thank you. Thanks for sticking around with us. Thank you to everyone in the Czech Republic, where we're routinely very, very widely and well received. And thanks to everyone. It's been a blast. Stay with us for a second. We're not done yet.
You still going on about that? I said you still going on about that?
Wow.
Still going on about that. And he's still going on about that. And he's still going on about that. Oh, you.
So this probably is my favorite one. This is Bismarck, clearly.
No, we talking about this is an original. You still going on about that.